We start. So it is Monday, February 10th, 2025. It is 1:05 PM. I am calling the meeting to order in place of Linda Williams, who is not here. And if she does show up, we'll turn the reins over to her. But I guess just do a roll call. Dave Franzuto,
Here.
Steve Linebaugh,
Here.
Emily Molden,
Here.
Rachel Freeman.
Here.
Do we have any other voting members? I don't believe so. And myself, that makes 5. And we have Jeff Carlson, Kim Starbuck, and Jack Wigan, and I guess Jerry Connick is from the public. Is that correct? Okay. I don't know that we have an agenda other than the fact that we want to finish where we left off at our last meeting. Is that right, Kim?
So we do have an agenda. Is Peter there?
No, he's not.
No, Peter. Peter did say he had some minutes, although I don't believe he sent them out in advance. So unless nobody got minutes, did they?
I did.
I got them.
Just sent them.
He just sent them. Okay. So I don't know if you want to do anything with the minutes since they were just sent, or just move on to continuing what we were doing before.
I think we just move on. I mean, we literally I got the minutes as I was just getting out of the car, and
Yeah.
so I don't think we should be asking anybody to vote to approve them.
Yep.
So I guess the main thing is that we'd like to finish up our first draft of the harbor plan, and we have one piece left. Is that right, Kim?
So let's see. I believe that Jack and I went through, we made edits to what we already went through. And then we have a few more goals, which Jack, I believe they start at commercial. Is it right that they start at commercial waterfronts? Did we go through that?
We haven't yet.
Yeah. Okay. So we would start at commercial waterfront, and I can share my screen. So first, what we were hoping to do was go through this piece of just getting through goals and objectives. And we don't have that many left. We have 4 left. So then we were hoping to move into actually getting into the plan. And once we get there, we can talk about the best way to kind of approach recommendations. There are so many recommendations. We want to find a way to kind of streamline that and talk to you guys about what we think a good plan would be. Does that make sense?
Yep. Peter Brace has just joined us, our secretary. So he's joined the meeting at 1:08 PM. We started at 1:05, Peter, and we were just talking about the agenda, which is to finish going through the goals and objectives, starting with commercial waterfronts.
We have quorum?
Yes, we do. You make 6.
All right. So are we ready to talk about commercial waterfronts?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So first off, we have a goal here of preserve the legacy of the harbors as working waterfronts. Does that make sense to you guys? Any edits? I can go just through the objectives, which maybe makes it a little more clear. First one being discourage the displacement of existing water dependent uses and activities with non-water dependent activities.
Hold on.
Yep.
We did that last time.
We did actually. Okay. I was wondering if we did, because we actually
did that last time, and the last thing we were working on was improve the intermodal interface.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I just did finish the minutes this morning, and
Okay.
You're right. So we're starting with boating and navigation.
Right.
Yep, okay. I was wondering, I was like, we didn't have the alternative down there, so then I started to wonder if we'd already gone through it. Okay,
Sorry
thank
about
you.
that, Kim.
Yeah,
Hey,
no
Kim?
worries, no worries. Okay,
Hey,
boating and
Kim?
navigation. So we only have
Kim?
3. Yeah?
This is Dave. Can you make that screen any bigger?
Yes. That help?
Yep. Yeah, anything you can do is great.
Okay. Okay. So for boating and navigation, we have the goal of provide a boating environment that promotes safety and balanced uses while maintaining the character and protecting the natural resources of the harbors. And then as an alternative, which it sounds as though we're mostly kind of trying to keep with this general language of goal 1, but an alternative would be the harbors provide a safe boating environment for all types of watercraft. Any edits to that?
Looks good to me.
I like the original one as opposed to the alternative one.
Yeah.
Any edits to the original one?
I don't know. One of the, not to be nitpicky, but one of the terms that is used quite a bit is competing uses.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know if safety and competing uses would be better than balanced. I don't know. It's just a question.
Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on that?
Competing uses, get you from, just the normal boating. It takes in the kiteboarding, it takes in all the, jet skis, it takes in all those other kind of peripheral boating uses. But anyway, it's just
And
what I,
Rachel has her hand up. I'm not sure if it's about that or something else. Okay, so maybe we'll just wait a minute and see if anybody else has thoughts about the balanced.
I guess we could just go to
Yeah, I mean, I think competing could go in there. I guess, yeah, the word balance does seem a little strange. I don't know if anybody else has thoughts. Or it could be varied uses.
I'm fine with competing uses.
Mhm.
I agree with that because what's balanced uses?
Right. Balanced uses is kind of a weird word for that. Okay, any opposition to competing?
Jeff, can you make a gallery view so I can see who's here?
I guess I'm just trying to understand, provide an environment that promotes competing uses. I don't know if we're promoting them to be competing, like is there
Like a variety of uses?
It's manages competing uses, so providing a boating environment that promotes safety and manages competing uses, maybe.
thank you.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds better.
Yep.
that's why she's the boss.
Yep. Okay. That sounds good. Anything else on the goal, or we can move into the objectives? Okay, objective 1, to ensure that both the number and size of boats does not exceed the carrying capacities of either Nantucket or Mattocket harbors. Objective 2, to ensure natural resources are protected from the impact of boating activities. And objective number 3 is to improve harbor safety.
Can I jump in here with my comment?
Oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, no problem at all. Thank you. I am wondering, and I know this was addressed above, but I'm wondering about including something about landside accommodations for
Mm.
boating, and I don't know if that's appropriate here. I noticed it in the commercial waterfronts that there's some reference to landside accommodation, but boating is sort of indicative of more private activities, I guess, and I see that we struggle with having sufficient landside accommodations for mooring fields.
Mhm.
That may be part of objective 1 in terms of the carrying capacity.
Right, yeah. I just don't know if it fits anywhere or if it doesn't belong.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say is we did struggle with so commercial waterfronts and boating and navigation does have a lot of overlap. So we tried to, I think, consolidate some of them into different categories, but you know, it's possible that we need something more here that's specific to boating and navigation. Maybe it's not commercial. So yeah, so if it's not commercial, boating and navigation could just be, you know, the recreational people, which maybe then need more landside facilities.
Kind of like objective 3 a little bit in commercial waterfronts, bringing something similar to that down was what I was thinking, but
Yeah.
again, I know it's repetitive.
Right.
But
it's
then
not.
maybe that emphasizes the need for it, you know, if it's in multiple sections, that
Mhm.
makes it very clear that this is something necessary.
Mhm.
Well, it certainly is something that is necessary, and that, you know, that has a lot to do with sometimes the amount of moorings in a certain area.
Mhm.
I mean, do we need to make reference to the Army Corps of Engineers? Because at the end of the day, aren't they the one to put the ceiling on the number of moorings?
Yes.
So should we refer to the Army Corps of Engineers? I mean,
They don't set, Corps of Engineers doesn't set the number of moorings. They set the dimensions and locations of the mooring fields. They don't set mooring numbers.
okay.
The town of Nantucket has set the limit on the number of moorings.
And we could move that objective 3 from commercial waterfront down to boating and navigation.
Yeah. That's what I'm wondering, is if this is more boating and navigation.
Increase the number of size of facilities. Yeah, there's only one recommendation under objective 3, explore opportunities of flowing sites and others with potential for new boat landings. And it's the land banks properties, Holly Farm, Petrel Landing, that kind of thing. So that could easily be moved down to boating and navigation.
Yep. And some of this might become more obvious as we look at the recommendations, what might go where. Do you think we need to also increase the number of sites and facilities for working waterfronts, or for, I guess?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes.
So this might need to just be reworded, so it's not like public sites, but
Well, it could be that objective could also be another objective in boating and navigation.
yeah.
Just redundancy is, in my opinion, is never a bad thing. It just spells it out clearly what our desires are, and hopefully what the town's desires are.
The objective 3 in commercial waterfront refers specifically to small boats.
Okay.
So that could be moved down, and then we add another objective that refers more to commercial facilities under commercial waterfront. Could just write a new objective under there.
Yep, I think that works. Steve?
Well, I was jumping ahead to objective 3, so I don't know if we would just want to wait till we get down to there. I had some thoughts on that one.
Any other thoughts on this? I think we kind of got that more figured out. Okay, let's talk about number 3.
We didn't talk about number 2. Does anybody have any thoughts on number 2?
Number 2 under boating navigation. Right. I think Sheila's got that covered.
Ensure natural resources are protected from the impact of boating activities.
We're on the objective 201.
One thing we do have to be careful of, so we're consistent, is if we say 2, you know, down here, it looks like we just jump and say ensure. So these might need to be like also just ensure to be consistent.
I mean, the thing about natural resources are protected. I mean, you know, you're talking about salt marsh, eelgrass. I guess, I don't know what else we're trying to protect there, but it just seems kind of vague.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe isn't that covered in the natural resource section?
It, yes, I believe it is, you know, generally to protect natural resources. And we likely, I believe we get into boating activities, things like moorings and those kinds of things. But we can double check, and I don't know, again, if this is redundant, and do we want to be redundant?
If just having looked at the resources section, we don't reference voting in that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's likely, you know, I'm sure, I can't remember exactly, but I can bring up the document with the full recommendations, but we do say, you know, preserve, protect, and restore critical eelgrass resources.
Yeah, the recommendations there go to enforcement, monitoring activities, efforts of boating activities, work with the Coast Guard on available pump out facilities, a dive survey to assist the impact of boating activities. Prepare a map depicting all areas dedicated to specific uses along with natural resources. That kind of thing. So they are really pretty boating oriented.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking at also natural resources recommendations. And I think we're more focused on boating activities in that section, in the one that Jack was just reading versus in natural resources. So it might be useful to keep it in.
Yeah, this was one of those scenarios where actually looking at their recommendations helps to confirm that it does make sense to be there.
Thanks.
Okay, anything else on this section on goal 1?
Objective 3, to improve harbor safety. I don't know how the rest of the committee feels about, but maybe adding some kind of language that would as an objective, add language about increasing the presence of the Marine Department on the water during the summer season
Mm.
to promote harbor safety.
Jack, can you see if that's under a recommendation?
I am looking now. Nope.
Okay,
Wait a minute, I'm not done yet. No enforcement of safety rules. Improve the enforcement of safety rules in the harbor, including use of channels. Nope.
Well, that,
No.
that's part of it. I mean,
Yeah, right.
no wake zones.
Yeah.
yeah,
Steve's, we remember, if you guys remember, we had a lengthy conversation about speed limits in certain areas and things like that, Steve had brought up. The other thing too is, not to throw stones, but a presence on the water, that's not how I want to say that. It's a heck of a lot easier, especially during the summer season, if you're out there when things occur. It takes, time to run down the dock, get a boat underway with a crew, where if you've got standardized patrol times and presence on the water, I can't tell you how many times it's that when I was doing that, it's just so much easier to get the call and spin around and go do what you got to do rather than, get to the boat and fire it up and get 3 people and here we go. I mean, it's just to Steve's point, a stronger presence is beneficial in many ways.
Mm.
And none of the recommendations at this point say that.
Yep. So I wonder if that maybe is more a recommendation under objective 3. Since we do have other recommendations aren't necessarily related to that. Be too much.
I'm fine with it as a recommendation. I just like to see that kind of language in there somewhere.
Yeah. Do you have anything more specific that you want us to set? I just put down increased presence of enforcement. I'm not sure that's what you said.
Well, maybe more like along the lines of what Dave said about regular patrols on the water.
Mhm.
I don't know if we want to get it specific as to times or things like that,
Yeah.
but
No, but I believe that her staffing levels are improving to the point where they may be able to have a better, more not better, but more presence on the water.
What Dave just said, specificity here should be really important because what it's going to come down to is designating a person in the Marine Department who's going to be in a boat on the harbor, maybe rotating shifts of people that are going to be there because Sheila can't be there all the time. She's got a million things to do.
Mhm.
So it's going to be new personnel, maybe another boat. So it's
I think. Thanks, Peter. I think they got enough boats, and I think they're working towards. I know they've got a couple extra bodies. I'm saying this tactfully, that are not kids who run a pump out boat. They're more seasoned folks. So I think, but also to Peter's point, this can be, referred to in the future when you're talking about budgets for people or allocation of resources and stuff. So I think that's why it just needs to be a little bit more clear.
Okay. Yep. Okay, we can work on that.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good point. Okay, anything else on goal 1? Okay. On to goal 2, increase the security of the harbors, and this is likely just ensure smooth and operation in the event of a significant maritime disaster, storm, or accident. Alternative language, not sure if we want to bring anything from here up, but Nantucket's harbors, waterfront facilities are adequate and designed to ensure uninterrupted movement of freight and passengers, which are essential to the community's security. Not sure if anything needs to be maybe brought up into the first goal.
Well, the one in red, the one in red, really deals with the commercial side, the freight and the passenger carrying vessel side of that. And I don't think it meshes well with the one in blue, but the word I'm struggling with is security. I don't understand where if you could, Kim, if you can, or Jack, help me with the security of the harbors. I don't understand security there.
Yeah, I think it's maybe a catch-all term that might refer to what we all would commonly understand security to mean, as well as, sort of the functioning of the continuous functioning of it.
I see.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of a different or better word.
If I'm, I don't know, this is just, a blinder point of view, but it's like security means to me is I'll be honest with you, I can't figure out security there. Unless you're underway providing security for a barge or a dignitary or the Fagawi. I don't know. I'm just struggling with
Yeah,
security.
it's fair, Dave.
I mean, we could
Are we
just start with ensure, we could just start with ensure.
Are we talking about infrastructure here? Or, I mean, the only time I've seen security landside was at the Children's Beach when there's a storm coming and they had to have cops down there to keep people into fights.
To direct traffic, right?
Yeah, I mean, we could just start with ensure. That might.
Yeah, I now that you say that, that looks good, Kim. If you start with ensure, smooth, uninterrupted, and yeah.
And I think the alternate in red should be stricken completely because I personally don't believe the facilities are adequate at this point.
That needs to be moved someplace else
Mhm.
where it says that they're inadequate, Steve.
Yeah.
Recommendations. Create waterfront facilities.
I think that's part of objective number 1.
Yeah. We have infrastructure down there. Okay. So maybe, do you think that a goal 2 is okay enough? And then let's look at the objectives and see if anything else needs to be added.
Yeah, I think that the wording from the red where it says movement of freight and passengers could be moved down to objective 1 and incorporated in objective 1. We're trying to do 2 things here. We're trying to improve the infrastructure, and then we're trying to do something for a storm event. And I think the storm event is handled in objective 2. I guess I shouldn't have had that third cup of coffee.
No, these are good comments. It is right. We do talk about storm events here. Jack, anything specific? Sorry to keep going back to you, but you're
right.
To see the
All right, so somebody was saying utilize some of what's in that red alternative goal in which objective?
in objective 1. So maybe
Okay.
passengers in there.
Movement of
Freight and passengers.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm. Um,
Because that's what you're talking about in infrastructure. You know, it's the steamship authority, it's the High Line, it's what do we do if a barge sinks in the channel, um, you know, during a storm event or otherwise. But anyway, and then the second objective seems to deal with storm events.
Yep, I see. Yep. Yep. Yeah, that works.
You know, just so everybody knows, the way that two works is the coordination with all of the mooring handlers and boat yards, and then the big stuff handled at the at Great Harbor Yacht Club with the travel lift. So
mhm.
it's a good exercise in coordination with all the boat yards and mooring handlers to get, you know, 1,300 boats out in a relatively few hours. So
Is there something that we can adjust in the wording so that if in the next 10 or 12 years, an opportunity comes up for another place to pull boats like Children's Beach, that we can point to it was in the plan? You see what I'm getting at? In
Yeah.
other words, the state is going to, you know, if something
Well-
comes up, we were talking about petrol landing or whatever, but if something comes up.
well,
in the
we
future,
we've talked about numerous times about the multi-use possible multi-use facility that the Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board had submitted for out by the jetties, which includes commercial activity, a boat ramp, recreational fishing pier, and an alternative steamship, a Highline terminal. So, my personal opinion, having lived through it, we've exhausted all in-town locations for a secondary boat ramp, other than some type of a movable Moby mat or temporary structure adjacent to the one at Children's Beach. So, you know, it'd be nice to be able to have another piece of waterfront that we could have another travel lift and another boat ramp, you know, in 10 or 15 years or whenever.
Mhm.
I mean, it seems like objectives 1 and 2 for the second goal would support that. If there an opportunity came up. Is that sort of what you're asking, Phil?
yeah, I just want to make sure that we keep this language open, so it could be, Dave, that a personal property comes up for sale or something.
You in a meeting?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I have it at 4. I'll go in.
And,
Can I sit right there in the corner?
so it could be something where property becomes available and, I just think that if the state were to, question us on, well, was it in your plan? We could say, yeah, it's here on objective or whatever.
Yeah, I think it looks like it's probably covered there, but
Okay,
you know,
I just-
we you know, hindsight's 2020. And when the opportunity to buy the boatyard, we had all this stuff incorporated in that. But you know, Great Harbor Yacht Club is there now. So, but to your point, you know, there could become a property available that, you know, would work.
I will say, recommendation number 1, that goes with that. I'll just read it. It says, through public initiative or as part of private waterfront development, increased capacity New boat ramp, lift, or other technology to evacuate vessels from the harbors is an emergency. Possible locations for a publicly built facility are, and it lists a couple facilities, so the recommendation does
Okay, good.
encourage just that.
Okay, I was just asking a question, that's all.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, Phil, you can't, your point is well taken. You can't lose sight of, you can't let anybody lose sight of that.
Because there is I think in the next 10 or 15 years, there is a possibility that something might come up.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else on objectives 1 and 2?
Yeah, for objective one, think at the end, after it says especially during a storm event, it should also say and as a or as a result of sea level rise.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
Because we're going to gradually lose our infrastructure as the water comes up. And well, of course, we're hopefully going to migrate that infrastructure to drier land or make it go higher, but it should be noted anyway.
Yeah.
That's when they're gonna be able to increase the mooring capacity, because there's gonna be more water and less land.
Good plan.
I like that, Steve.
Okay.
If you could start a marina out near Monomoy.
Perfect, bring it on. We have a couple
tried-
piers. We already have a pier out there. Maybe they'll just like let us start building off that.
Yeah. We tried to put a fuel pipeline over there. We lost that battle.
The people are very welcoming in Monomoy these days, let me tell you.
Can we go to coastal resiliency?
Mhm.
Sounds good. First goal, minimize and prepare for the impacts of climate change within the harbor planning area. Alternative, again, this was just kind of another way to state a goal. But we can pick pieces of this to bring up here. The harbor waterfront areas are resilient to the impacts of climate change, particularly sea level rise and coastal flooding. I don't know if there's anything we want to bring from the red up.
I don't know, I'm with Phil from the previous meeting. The red needs a verb.
I don't know what, I mean, I really don't know that the waterfront areas are resilient to the impact of climate change.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's more.
That just opens a can of worms, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so that red wording is more supposed to be the kind of lofty goal. It was just it's not saying that they actually are resilient, but that's what we're working towards. This is just kind of a different language as to how to say it. So really the goal is to have them be resilient, not that they are resilient right now.
So that's our word ensure again.
Yeah, so we've already kind of decided that the red type of wording for a goal doesn't work. And so we can eliminate that. But are there any pieces of the red that we want to bring up?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Peter, you happy with that wording?
Well, I think we should bring up, the green should be minimize and prepare for the impacts of climate change, specifically sea level rise within the harbor planning area. Because there's loads of impacts from climate change that have nothing to do with the water. So if we're talking about sea level rise, then it should be there.
Yep.
And coastal flooding, should you just bring that up as well?
And coastal flooding.
Yep.
Agreed.
Agreed. That's why we got you as a resiliency person.
Okay. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Next objective, so 5 objectives here. I'll just read through them and then we can go back. Support the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee in the implementation of the Coastal Resilience Plan, increase collaboration, education, and outreach with on-island groups involved in coastal resiliency and adaptation. Build coastal resilience within Nantucket and Mattocket harbors by improving infrastructure, which reduces the risk of coastal hazards, such as flooding and erosion, prioritizing natural nature-based approaches and green infrastructure to the extent possible. Improve and diversify the town's ability to fund coastal resilience and adaptation projects, and then integrate climate resilience and adaptation measures into municipal regulations and bylaws. And again, sometimes it's hard to, I don't know if you guys have the recommendations on the side, but it's hard to know what we're talking about always without the recommendations on the side. I'm wondering if objective 3, without I kind of have this as my full screen here, maybe needs to be shortened a little bit, and some of this may already be in the recommendations, in which case we can shorten it a little bit. Which I can look into.
Now, objective 3, getting a little too granular.
Yeah, I think some of that we can bring down into the recommendations if it's not already there. Really, the big point that we were trying to make in this section is to support the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee, as you guys already have a really great coastal resilience plan, and then you know, kind of allow for, you know, when talking with CRAC, we talked about, you know, allowing for flexibility as the plan is now a couple years old, allowing for flexibility to make changes as needed, as things change on island. Any comments on that, or we feel pretty good about those?
3, 4, and 5. I mean, I'd say 2 through 5, those are ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe before each one, you could say, continue to increase, you know, for objective 2, continue to increase, continue, and then number 3, continue to build. Number 4, continue to improve. Objective 5, continue to integrate, because we're all working on that stuff now.
Yep. Anything else?
And I don't know if this is a thing, maybe it's, well, Steve just said he liked redundancy, so since I'm the CRAC representative on this committee, and hopefully going forward, when we have the implementation committee, there'll be a CRAC representative on that committee. Maybe there needs to be a representative from that implementation committee on CRAC. I don't know. Maybe that's too granular. But.
Sorry, can you say that one more time? So have
Well, there's already me representing CRAC on this committee, but then when this committee becomes the implementation committee,
yeah,
I'm assuming that CRAC is going to want to have somebody from crack on that implementation committee. But in case that doesn't happen, maybe there should be an implementation committee person on coastal resilience.
Yeah.
There should be a connection between both those committees going forward. Because coastal resilience is such a crucial part of this plan.
Can I ask a question? Peter, are you on crack because you're a member of the Harbor Advisory Board?
Yeah, that's right. It's all connected, Dave.
Well, that's my point exactly. I just didn't realize that until you started talking that you're the SHAB representative to crack. So yeah, that's a good point, that we need to ensure that these, and maybe maybe that's the way to get it less granular, is if we make just a general statement. But I mean, that there is so much overlap between all of them. I mean, it's just like, trying to do something with eelgrass without talking to Emily. You know what I mean? It's just, it's all connected, but maybe we need to make that point. That we need to, that all these agencies, the land bank and the land council and town boards, I don't know, maybe just a general statement somewhere that just to memorialize that. I think it's important, because I think you could have a board, and I've sat on a couple of them, that get so focused on something, in left field, that you lose sight of the big picture.
Mhm.
I don't know. I should only had 2 coffees, but I just think we ought to say that somewhere.
Is anything like that, Jack, in the recommendations?
Sort in administration and coordination, there is.
Oh, maybe that's and that would be a logical place to put that. You're right, Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure it says exactly what David said, but we can certainly add that in.
All right. Well, you never want to say what I said, so.
Yeah. Oh, yes, we do.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Should we move on to administration coordination?
Last one.
Yep, last one here. Okay, first goal, pursue the plan's goals and objectives by implementing the recommendations over the plan's approval period. So this again is just kind of the lofty goal of the goals and objectives have been advanced through timely implementation of its recommendations. So pretty similar, just worded differently. Any thoughts on the blue? Anything we need to change?
What do you mean by the plan's approval period?
The state approves a harbor plan for a period of time. I think it's 10 years these days.
Well, is that what they call an approval period?
Yes.
Okay.
In other words, theoretically, once that period has gone by, the plans, as far as the state's concerned, they're not using it anymore. But that hasn't been the case.
I don't know, it's kind of confusing. Maybe if it was like the plan's active period or something like that. Because at a certain point it becomes, I don't know, inactive, because everything has either been, all the recommendations have been put into action or rendered, moot, I guess. I don't know. That's me being Dave, being granular.
Yeah. And just leave that last phrase out altogether.
Mm.
Just end with the word recommendations.
Okay. Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
Just delete this all together.
Sort of goes without saying.
Yeah.
Because what do we get? 82, what did Dave say? Around 82% of the recommendations from 2009 plan were 82% were implemented. So will we reach 100%? Probably not. But
No.
No, some of them were just unattainable, but yeah, I think it was a little less than that, but yeah, you just get you get to the point where you've done all you can do. Financially, personnel, whatever.
Yeah.
Things change.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So objectives, design and execute a plan implementation strategy. Objective 2, improve coordination and enforcement of regulatory decisions. And objective 3, increase awareness of the island's vulnerabilities to natural events and the regulatory requirements for development along the coast.
Executive 3 might add on before increase. You might say work with the crack
Mm-hmm.
to increase, because that's pretty much our job. That's one of our jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's-
I think that's certainly fair. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Part of our charge to educate people. In fact, we're right in the middle of doing that. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that also includes making the realtors aware and potential buyers and
Mhm.
people along the waterfront downtown and, so.
Mhm. That's what the recommendation talks about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, anything else on those? All right, moving on to goal 2, increase the effectiveness of the town's harbor and marine related boards, committees and departments, and increase their resources, commensurate with the economic, cultural, and environmental importance of the harbors to the community. That might be a little long.
I think that thing about increased effectiveness is pretty squishy.
Mhm.
This is pretty much what I was talking about earlier about everybody, coordinating with everybody else. I'm with Phil. I don't believe that increase the effectiveness is correct. I think it ought to be stronger. It should say ensure support of the town's harbor and marine related boards and committees, or improve coordination with.
Yeah, is there an improve or ensure collaboration between component and then also
Is this something the implementation committee, is this an action item for the implementation committee? Who's gonna do this?
Yeah, so it would be the implementation committee. I don't know if that's hard for the implementation committee to do.
I think the whole thing speaks to the harbor master, the Natural Resources Department, the Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board, the Harbor Plan Implementation Committee, CRAC to some extent, I suppose, operating in your individual areas of responsibility without perhaps enough coordination among those entities. Now, we don't know that because we're not involved on a day-to-day basis, but that's what the objectives and the recommendations get at. Is there a way to improve the organizational structure of those boards and committees that have some responsibility over harbor activities, landside or waterside, so that when decisions are made for funding or for a land use decision or whatever, that it is understood across those entities what the value or what the impact of those things are going to be. That's what we're
Well-
trying to get at. And maybe you
Well,
do that already. I don't know.
No, but that's, then I'm completely wrong. I get what you're saying, Jack. And that needs to be stated. I was just trying to include all the NGOs and other
Oh.
folks.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't
But
mean
I'm-
to leave them out either.
No. But I think to your point, what you're trying to do here should stand alone, and then a comment, another either another objective or another goal that all of those folks that you just mentioned coordinate with all the non-government agencies.
I mean, I think it's always a good reminder that nobody should be operating in a silo,
Mhm.
right? It
Well-
never hurts to put that in there.
Most
I
definitely.
actually have to jump off, but I wanted to mention one thing. And this goes actually back a little bit for objective 3 for goal 1, the coordinate with CRAC. No, go down, back down.
Goal 1.
Yep.
This one?
No, keep down. Administration and coordination, objective 3 for goal 1, coordinate with CRAC to increase awareness of the island's vulnerabilities to natural events.
Mhm.
I acknowledge that CRAC is really involved in that. I don't want to, again, sort of in that whole concept of siloing, I don't want to. I can see a lot of people that should be coordinated with to increase the awareness of the island's vulnerabilities. I'm not trying to minimize the importance of CRAC by any means. And should they be the clearinghouse, that makes sense. But I just wanted to put that out there, that I was wondering if it should be, CRAC and, I don't know, other pertinent organizations or relevant organizations. So just an idea.
Mhm.
And then I think, I'm really sorry, I do actually have to jump off at 2 here, so.
I think that's a good point, because it shouldn't just be focused on crack.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Rachel.
Just a question. Did we lose our quorum?
Nope.
No, we're at 5 now.
1, 2. Because Emily said that she is,
Oh.
she has to take a call and step away from the meeting. She's not sure if she'll make it back by 2:30. I don't know if that, I can't see how many
Did
people.
we lose Emily?
Yeah, for right now, she said she had to take a call and she's not sure if she'll be back before 2:30.
Well, now we're at 4.
I would suggest, given how close we are to the end, that her box is still present there on the screen. So she didn't sign out.
Yeah,
So
she's still there.
let's forge on and finish the last,
Yeah.
and then we can call it from there.
Call it quits. Leave
Sounds
early.
Okay, anything else related to goal 2 and the objectives? I guess right now we've sort of still been kind of wordsmithing the actual goal. And we might want to find a way to kind of reduce the language in there and include them more in objectives or recommendations.
Should we add something in there about coordinate? Because there's also non-town entities like the Land and Water Council that should be
Yeah.
coordinated with also. They have valuable information that maybe some other people don't.
Yep. Yep. I think that makes sense. Okay. Anything else there? Okay, we can always go back. Objective 1 is create an organizational structure that supports coordinated management of and investments in harbor operations and the infrastructure that supports them. And then objective 2 is increase financial resources to support the Harbor Master Department and for harbor related purposes, including resource management and enforcement.
I think that the natural resources ought to be added in objective 2.
Mhm.
The department,
Yes, because
Yeah,
when
okay.
you're talking about resource management, that's their job, and then
Yep.
the operation of the harbor is the harbor master's job.
Mhm.
I agree.
And
Good
you want
point.
to make sure that natural resources doesn't get overlooked when it comes to funding.
Agreed. Okay, done.
Call me later, Carlson.
I know where to find you.
Unfortunately.
So in objective 1, when we talk about creating an organizational structure, we're talking basically about the implementation committee,
Possibly.
or are
Yeah.
we just leaving it? Are we leaving it a little bit nebulous in case somebody else has a better idea?
No, well, to Steve's point, I wouldn't leave it nebulous. I don't want anybody else mucking this up.
Mhm.
So do we want to talk about creating the implementation committee to carry out the objectives and goals of the plan?
We do.
I'd certainly agree to that.
Yeah. Under goal 1, objective 1, design and execute a plan implementation strategy. The first recommendation is select board should create and charge a harbor plan implementation committee to coordinate and oversee the strategy for implementation of the plan. And then it talks about composed of representatives of the boards and committees identified as having responsibilities for the recommendations and include ad hoc members from associated departments. To the extent possible, maintain some continuity with members of the Nantucket and Mattocket Harbors Action Plan Update Committee. Now that recommendation, we haven't really gone over the recommendations, but that recommendation could certainly be hardened if you all have a stronger opinion that you members should be, if not solely comprising that committee, to be definitely be on it. So we can wordsmith that when we get to it.
I tell you, that was well put, what you read, Jack. So,
Okay.
but to Steve's point, well, I don't know. I still think we ought to say implementation committee in objective 1.
Okay, yep. Okay, we can do that.
I mean, it's whatever you guys think, but I'm just saying, stranger things have happened that somebody could come along and say, well, we're not going to have you folks do this. We're going to appoint these folks to do that.
Right. The other option we could say is and I know we say the word ensure a lot, but ensure the implementation committee supports coordinated management. We're already saying up above.
Yeah, and well, yeah, I'd go with ensure. I know we've used it a lot, but
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, you know, nail this thing down so the implementation committee has a good format and roadmap for what they need to get done.
Yep. Okay. Anything else on 1 or 2?
So Kim, is the next step that maybe you guys clean up what we've gone over the last 2 meetings and give us a clean version of this?
Yep. We've already made the edits to the ones up above, so that's good. So we've already made those edits, and we'll go through and make these edits and send them back to you. And then the next big step is dealing with kind of the bigger draft plan and how we want to handle that. You know, we are a little worried about getting bogged down too much as there are so many recommendations in there. And so, you know, we don't really want to go through and necessarily wordsmith each of them. Feel free, if you are able to, before the next meeting, go through that draft plan and make any track changes, any edits, and I can incorporate that. I already have a bunch of edits from some other people, so feel free to go through there and make edits. If you don't want to do that, what we're thinking is we kind of go section by section, and you know, read the goal, or Linda the recommendation. Either you read the recommendation or Linda reads the recommendation, and you know, we try not to wordsmith, but we see if there's anything that raises red flags, if there's anything that's a big issue. Again, there is overlap between the sections, so we have to make sure that, you know, you know, if you're like, well, where's this recommendation? It's actually could be in a different section. So we should, you know, just double check that.
Well, I guess at this point, though, the committee can get from you guys a clean version of the goals and objectives.
Yep.
And we're pretty much done with editing that.
Yep.
It's just now deciding what recommendations make sense to keep with everything.
Can
Definitely.
is it worth briefly discussing what the timeline is going forward now, when we might expect to have something for a public review? And
so it all kind of depends on how long it takes us to get through these recommendations. And if you guys agree, you know, there's a lot of language here, and I have gotten some comments, which I've included over here. And, you know, just, you know, we think the best way to do this is kind of to do it in clumps, where, you know, we look at recommendation 1, any big issues, anything we should change, and then go into recommendation 2. If we can move swiftly with this, I mean, it's just so hard to say. We meet every 2 weeks. If, you know, I'm hoping we would only need 3 to 4 meetings to go through this. I don't know if that's ambitious.
Well,
It's 40.
No, what about, we've got a clean version of the goals and objectives.
Right.
And how about as the next step, you guys dump all the recommendations into where you think they fit?
Yep.
And we as a committee, we don't have to sit around and talk about this. We could go through this and say, yes, no, or whatever. And I don't think if everybody's willing to do some of this homework on their own, we can slash some of these recommendations or say needs more work on this one, but now we have the framework in place.
Yeah.
And it's just a question if, do we keep, every recommendation that has sort of been generated over the last 2 years?
Right.
But you guys could help us by putting where you think each of these recommendations would live.
Definitely.
I think that would be, does that make sense to people?
Yeah, I would almost suggest if people could look at those and know which ones they had a question or wanted to talk
Oh,
about.
absolutely, but we don't
And
need to
come
sit
with
there.
that, and then we can almost do like town meeting, right, and go through it.
Yeah.
Figure out which ones, and
Yeah,
then the rest of them, done and gone.
exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy.
So this puts a little bit of work on your shoulders. Kim,
No,
you.
I mean, not really.
All the pieces there.
I've already gone through and kind of made those edits to the beginning of the document. So it shouldn't be too hard for me to go through and make the edits.
I think the hard part is what we've just done.
Mhm.
And the next part is, which one of these pieces do we want to keep and which, and do they make sense? Do they line up with each of the objectives? And to the extent they don't, then should they exist or should they just be tossed out?
I think that makes total
Okay.
sense.
Okay, well, I'm sensing that maybe we could leave early.
Yes, hold on though, before we leave. So based on Steve's question about timeline, I mean, if we are able to move swiftly through this, I could see us having a draft, in not that long. We already have the background sections pretty much done. If we can move through these in a couple meetings, then maybe late March, early April, we'd have a draft that could be ready for public review. And it all depends on how fast we can move, but I think that that's reasonable on our end.
Okay,
And the other thing I just wanted to make sure we do is just get a meeting on the calendar for ideally February 24th.
I will say, I know for a fact that I'm out of town that day. That's the first Monday of school break.
Yep.
no,
So
that's not good.
there may be a number of us that are away for that.
Okay.
I'm available.
You guys can certainly meet without me. That's totally fine. So
Well, I think there's some other people. who might be-
I believe Tara's away that day too, so we would,
How about the following Monday?
I'll be back.
What would that be? I don't
March
know.
the 3rd.
March 3rd?
Yep.
And that would give us time while everybody's on school vacation, they can go through it.
Yep.
Not gonna lie, I'm not reviewing it on my vacation. I won't even pretend.
Okay,
0% chance.
okay, so the idea is we'll get something from you guys in the next within the week,
Yep.
and
By
we
the
have
end
on our
End of the week.
calendar March 3rd.
I'm sorry, when did you want it by, Phil? By the end of the week?
I think so.
All right,
Is this,
work on that. My best. It might be early next week, but
Okay, okay.
we'll work on that. And then it would be great if you guys can, read through it as much as you can before the next meeting. And
when
make
you say,
edits,
say-
track changes.
when you say draft by late March, early April, is that a draft that the public can see?
That would be my hope. I don't know if that's ambitious given the, it just depends on how fast we can move through those recommendations, but we already have, the structure of the plan in place, the background section's done. It's really just, the next step is just going through those recommendations.
You got it.
Okay, I can, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, all in favor, Dave Franzuto,
Aye.
Steve,
aye.
Peter,
Aye.
myself, Emily's up there, she's probably saying aye, right?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Fun.
Yeah.